Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to airbrushing some saddlebags and a batwing. Now I left you off in part 3 and we've got the artwork done on the first side of the saddlebags, and we'd sort of finished it on the top here where the barbed wire was. Now I've come in this morning and just finished off the little bits of barbed wire to go around the back, and then they just fade out into black because you don't see sort of the back edge. That sort of goes up against the side of the bike. So nice clean bit of artwork, not over the top. We could add loads more to this, but I just think it'll be a little bit overkill. There's enough on there with the barbed wire coming round, going round there. We've got the skull with the green candy. So that one is complete. The beauty of going over sort of like a black base coat is if you make any mistakes, because there was some comments on the channel saying how do you fix mistakes, if you were to mess up on this bit of barbed wire here, you can literally just go in with your airbrush with black base coat, go back to black the piece out that you've made the mistake on, and then just re-stencil, go back in with white and just build it up again. So what I've done is I've gone in with black and just gone round with the shield and just tightened up any bits where there's any overspray that's sort of misted across and just blacked out. And I'll do the same again with this before I come to clear coat. I'll set all the panels out and just have a little look round. If anything needs tightening up, sharpening up or sort of redoing, I'll just nip round with the colours set out with the brush and just nip round and just tidy things up. So it is nice to work off a black base coat now and again. I very rarely work from black up. I'll always work sort of white up with my artworks, but working off of black, you can do it, but I just prefer the other way. So we're going to move on to the next piece of artwork, which is on the next one of these. Similar sort of thing, different skull to a different angle. Little bit of green candy again, but just sort of in a different sort of way. Similar to this, so it's sort of matching, but just a different sort of shape coming round. And we've got the barbed wire again. So here's some of the materials we are using in today's video. So there's some of the bits we are using in today's video, guys. Done like a little list for you. So if you were sort of copying along or doing something similar, you're working off a black base coat and you think, oh, how do I go about doing it? Just stick to them sort of guidelines in that little clip of like materials if you're using the green candy and things like that, and you'll be good to go. Now, the first thing I've done, and the first thing I'd recommend you to do, if you've done what we've done in this process of videos where I put the black base coat down and left it for a day, probably just over a day, that base coat is cured. So that paint is now sort of sealed and gone down. Now, if you were to drop your artwork straight over that, you won't be getting an adhesion for your airbrush paint to grab hold of your black base coat. It will go on, but it won't adhere properly, and you'll probably get horrible things happen later on down the line when you clear coat it and then the sun gets on it, because black, we all know that when the sun hits black, it really heats up, just absorbs the heat. You could probably get delamination where it'll start to crack and start to pull away because your paint's not adhered to the black base coat underneath. So the first thing you need to do is key your surface up. Now, keying the surface up is basically scratching it or sanding it. You're not going in with a real coarse sandpaper, you're going in with a Scotch-Brite, a grey Scotch-Brite. These are like a fine, they look like things you'd use for cleaning your dishes in your sink. You get the green ones, the little green felt pads. It's the same sort of thing. The green's the real coarse one, the red's the medium, and then the grey's the fine. So if you use a fine one, which is the grey, link in the description, guys, go over your panel and literally scuff over it like that. So you dull off that black base coat. You're putting very fine scratches over. Don't worry about thinking, oh no, I've scratched it, or you're going to see the scratches through your clear coat. A good way of testing and looking at your paintwork to see how it looks after you've clear coated it is get yourself some panel wipe like that, and then literally just do that over the top and look down into your paintwork, and you'll see them scratches just disappear. Them very fine ones you've put in with your grey Scotch-Brite will just disappear and your panel will gloss up. So that's a good way of checking how your prep is as well on your base coats. So I've scuffed this back in grey Scotch-Brite and I've wiped it down in panel wipe, and you'll end up with something like that on your rag. You can see the bit of paint that's come off. That's basically just scuffing over, and then you're wiping off with the panel wipe the excess paint residues that are left on from scuffing it back. So now your panel is prepped. It's nice and clean, it's prepped, and it's ready for artwork. So the first thing we're going to do on this is get the artwork across to the panel. Now there's a few ways you can do this. If you're working on black, you could have a printout of your piece of artwork. So say you've got your skull, you've got your A4 picture of skull, because the A4 would sort of fit in here. You've got your skull diagram there. What you can do is get a white trace down. You can get it in like a graphite pencil on the back, and you can get it in white. Now what you'll do is you'll put your trace down on here with the white side facing your panel. Put a bit of masking tape on so you pin it in place. Then get your A4 piece of artwork that you've printed, say in black and white. Place that on top of the trace down, pin it with masking tape. Get your pencil and then draw on top of your image the sockets, the nose, the teeth. And then when you pull them two layers away, the trace down underneath has left you an outline in white. So basically it's sort of like that. You can see the white lines. I put a smiley face on the panel like that. You can do it this way as well. These are water-based white pencils. Some of these you can get online are wax versions. You don't want to be using them ones, guys. You really don't, because if you're leaving that waxy residue on your panel when it comes to clear coating, or when you put your paint on it, you'll see it separate from your pencil line. If you use a water-based version, you won't have any dramas. And then you can do that. If you wanted to get rid of that, you can just wipe that off with a bit of panel wipe, and that's your smiley face gone. So you can use pencils like that. Trace down will leave you a sort of like water-based pencil line round, so you're not got to worry about that. So you'd have it that way. So you'd have your white outline, and then you'd work from a white outline. Now how I'm going to do it is put some application tape on here, project my image up. So same sort of thing, but I'm using a projector. So I'll have the outline, I'll have the skull. I'll pencil round the skull on the application tape, move that to one side, chop the centre of the skull out, place the outer on, so we'll have an outline of a skull, but it will just be the black underneath. I'll go in with the white base coat and spray white. So I'm working off now a white background instead of a black. So I'll have a white hole here where the skull is. Leave that paint to go off for about an hour minimum. Just walk away after you put your solvent base coat down, 2 or 3 coats. Just walk away, go and get something to eat, grab a cup of tea. Leave it for an hour, come back so it's really dry. And the reason why I say that is because you're penciling over the top. If you were to pencil over a not cured base coat, I have done it in the past, and you go to pencil and you go straight through and you make smear marks in it, or you gouge into it. That base coat needs to be gone off completely, so when you pencil over the top, you're not digging into that paint. So then I'll leave the projector running, pencil the eyes and the other bits, like if you were using transfer tape, you'd have the white outlines underneath. I'll have pencil lines on top of white, so I'm going that way about it. So that's what we're going to do first. I'm not going to take you through that bit, I've just explained it. So nice and simple. Transfer tape, projector, or if you're really good at drawing, you can just go straight in and draw your skull outline and all your bits on there freehand. Me personally, I couldn't do that. It'd probably look like Mickey Mouse. That's why I'm projecting up, so I can get the bits where I need them. We all go about artwork different ways. You can do grids if you work from grids. Artists do that, where they do the grids and you pencil in the sections and work your way along the grids. I just find projecting nice and easy. I can just blow my image up to the size quickly. Masking tape around the outside, the application tape, jobs are good, and you just get on with your process a lot quicker. So that's what I'm going to do. I won't take you through that bit. Airbrushes, we're using the Creo's PS290 for dropping the sort of bulk passes of white down, and we've got 2 detail brushes. Now the reason why I picked 2 detail brushes is I've got one permanently set up with white paint in it and just leave white solvent in it, which is the custom micron. And then for my quick colour changes and different colours like the candy, blacks, greys and things like that, I'm using the Graudes. I just find it quicker to change up paints in this than I do the custom micron. But they're both on small needle setups. The micron's on a 0.18mm and the Infinity is on a 0.02 on that. So that's what we're using. If you've got a couple of brushes handy, it is handy to have a set colour in one, or if you're just using black and white, you can have black in one, white in the other. It just saves you keep cleaning through. Me, I'd have probably about 6 brushes and I'd just drop a colour in each. It'd be really nice and just pick one up. But I've just not got room on this table. 3's maximum on here, and that's what we're going to go with. So I'll see you after I've done all this, and you'll move straight in on the artwork. You're going to see time lapses, guys, because this is going to take some time. But I'll put a little bit of text up at the bottom. Enjoy the music that I put in, and we'll get this one done. And I'll see you at the end. See you in a bit. Right guys, it's the next day. We've got the school down and we've had a move around. I've sort of gutted the studio a bit and sort of tidied up because it feels like I'm working in a dingy cave with all the bagged walls. It's just depressing looking at the walls. I'd rather see just nice clean walls. I've got a lot more room just here. I've pulled out the big table, mounted that to the wall, so I've got a lot more room to work with, and this is higher up table as well. Just feel a little bit more comfortable working at a bit sort of upright position, being cramped down low to the floor. So you're seeing in that time lapse we've got the school down. Now it is the next day, so this paint's gone off. So what you can do is, we've been using FW inks, solvent white, solvent black. We've used a bit of golden on this as well. Now you can get your solvent based panel white, pour some of that on your kitchen towel, and now you can wipe over your panel and you've not got to worry about your artwork coming off. So it's a good idea to give your panel a wipe down, ready for your next session, because you've been touching this with grease off your fingers, holding shields, leaning against it. So a little clean down, and that's just took a little bit of misty oversprayed paint off, and your artwork's still good to go. So the next stage on this is going to be the barbed wire. Now I'm going to do a little bit more on this skull. I'm going to add a little bit more to it because I've got room to go in, do a few more little textures around here, darken some little bits up, drop some more highlights in. You can just keep going in and just keep reworking it. I'm going to do a little bit around here, darken this bit out here and just put that more into black. Drop a little bit more black over some of the overspill areas where it's sort of blue over. Just basically tidy up. Come in the next day, fresh eyes, clear mind, and you can look at your artwork again and think, yeah, I need to tweak that or do that. You're good to go, you can do. So we're going to do the barbed wire next. Now, the way I do barbed wire, really, really simple. Get yourself some of the transfer tape, application tape, the paper one that you can draw on with a pencil or a biro. I'd probably say biro for this because it gives you a nice dark outline to follow with your scalpel. And all I'll do is, for barbed wire, is do, basically you're doing a pin line, 3mm. You do a 3mm sort of pin line and wave that line around on your piece of paper, and then do another one and just overlap it. And so they intertwine like that, so they crisscross over each other. And then wherever you get a join on the crisscross, you get the little barb piece, which has the two little spikes sticking out. You draw one of them, cut it out in application tape. So I've got one here that I can just stick on and use. So wherever them two cross over, drop one of the barb pieces in, and you just cross it over, and you can do your own shapes wherever you want it to go, the line, and then just wherever it crosses over, just put a barbed piece, and then you're colouring it in. So I'll go in with white first, white solvent, drop a white base coat down, then I'll go in with some greys and just grey it up to give it sort of like a rounded edge. Going with your whites to put your highlights on, and on the barbed pieces you do exactly the same. You put this on after, spray the white, and then you put the little overlapping pieces on this, the shadows and the shading and the highlights on. So it's nice and simple. I'm also adding a little bit of burnt sienna, thinned out, and just doing some like rust on the twists of the barb, just a little bit of the colour, just to age it a bit, make it a little bit more sort of weathered on this barbed wire. So nice and simple. So that's the next thing to do. I've got the cut mat set up just here. I'm not going to put you through drawing this up and showing you how to cut it out. It's just, I've explained it on how you sort of draw it. Dead simple. Get yourself a reference off Google, just type in barbed wire and you'll see, type in barbed wire clip art and it will give you a black outline. So if you was to print that out and you wanted to put some transfer tape on to trace through, you could do it that way. And that would be your easiest way, is clip art, but you can see razor wire, different styles of barbed wire, and just pick the one you want for your project. So that's the next thing. I'll get all that cut out and I'll get you moved in on the time lapse and we'll get this one finished. See you in a bit. there you go guys, we've got both side panels done. That was the last one. We dropped a little bit of barbed wire coming down here. We've got a bit that wraps round this way, goes over and then round the back. On this one we've got the same barbed wire going round that way, piece coming up here, wrapping round and going round the back. So that's just a nice piece of artwork that sort of matches across the board on this bike. I didn't want to go too over realistic on this because this artwork on the bike was done 2 years ago, so I'm trying to match the style of artwork across the bike so it don't look out of place, because you progress from 2 years. So I'm trying to sort of put my artwork back a bit to think like, yeah, looked at a few images, right, and sort of match it up to what I've done, the style that I've done, so it all sort of blends in with the other schools that are on there. But it's come out nice. The barbed wire looks nice and realistic coming round with the colours and the highlights and the drop shadows in it. We've got the green candy on the skulls. This will look really nice once you panel wipe it up. When you drop panel wipe over it and it glosses the actual artwork up, it just gives the gloss out the panel. When you wet it up with panel wipe, it deepens the black and just makes all the colours pop when you drop panel wipe. So that's a nice way of checking to see what it's going to be like when it's cleared. Just get a pump sprayer and just spray panel wipe over and it can just gloss your piece up. And that's what we'll do before we come to clear coat. We'll go back in on these. I will spray panel wipe over, look in at the artwork, and then if there's any bits that need tweaking or I can see any bits that have misted overspray, I can then go back in with the black and just touch bits up. But I've gone in on certain bits and just touched up on bits. So I think we are good to go on these. So the next stage is going to be the Batwing, which is behind these. This is a bigger piece of artwork. A lot more detail in this piece because this is the front piece of the bike, so we're going to really sort of like tighten things up on this next piece. We've got a graveyard scene going down the sides, and then we've got a Grim Reaper coming up from the centre looking forward with his hand clawing forward, and sort of like fogged out green candy going across the graveyard scene. So that's what's coming up next. I hope you've enjoyed today's video on this side panel. Just follow them sort of steps, take your time, keep your panels clean. If you're leaving your base coat, prep it up, key your surfaces before you go in with your airbrush artwork, and you'll be good to go. And just sort of take your time, plod along. Don't try and get it all done in one sitting. Do a couple of hours, walk away, come back, fresh eyes, and have another crack at it, and just keep chipping away. So all you've got to do is just keep chipping away at the artwork, and eventually it just comes together. So thanks for watching guys. Don't forget, if you are new to the channel and you are enjoying this content, click that subscribe, press that notification, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.